Hey everyone, Camille here for your third UT Mental vlog, and today I want to talk about stigma and mental health, focusing on movies' portrayals of mental illnesses. First of all, why is it important to talk about stigma? Stigma is a negative stereotype associated with a particular circumstance, and discrimination roots from stigma. People with mental illnesses face stigma and thus discrimination. It is incredibly hard to live your life when you're constantly being discriminated against. Not only do you have to battle your own mind every day, but then you also have to battle other people's prejudice and preconceived ideas. In fact, the stigma can have such an impact on people with mental illnesses that they can start feeling self-stigma, which is basically that they agree and accept the stigma. Thus, it's important to keep talking about mental health and mental illnesses so that we can abolish the stigma. Unfortunately, television isn't always the best at helping abolish the stigma. As a matter of fact, they mostly suck at it. According to Dr. Byrne, a psychiatrist from University College London, mental health stereotypes in the cinema haven't changed in over a century. In fact, they're actually getting worse. And these movies can have a big influence on the public. Research has shown that many people get their information about mental illnesses through mass media. For people who may not have been educated about what mental illnesses are really like, or who have not experienced it themselves, either directly or through a member of their entourage, what they see can really color their perspective. This can lead them to fear, avoid, and discriminate against people with mental illnesses. This is where I come in. Let's talk about some common mental illness stereotypes in television. The biggest one of all, people with mental illnesses are violent. American Psycho, American Horror Story, Murder House, or Asylum, or even more recently, Split. What do all of these have in common? Unfortunately, the majority of times that you'll see a movie depicting a mental illness, violence will be the most commonly linked theme. Based on what I've said previously, you can then imagine that people who watch these movies and who don't know about what mental illnesses are really like will think that people with mental illnesses are violent and dangerous. However, that's not true at all. In fact, research has shown that mentally ill people are more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators. People with severe mental illnesses such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or even psychosis are 2.5 times more likely to be assaulted than the general population. Although studies suggest a link between mental illnesses and violence, the contribution of people with mental illnesses to the overall rate of violence is small. And further, the magnitude of this relationship is greatly exaggerated in people's minds. Overall, the vast majority of people who are violent do not suffer from a mental illness. With all this research as proof, I think it's about time we stop linking violence with mental illnesses. The miracle cure. Mental illnesses are very complicated because they're often due to multiple intersecting factors. This can be seen through the multiple perspective on psychological disorders. To name a few, we have biological, psychoanalytic, learning, cognitive, family system, sociocultural, interpersonal, and the diathesis stress model. There isn't just one cause for somebody's mental illness, and I think that's why it's really hard for the general population to grasp it, because they can't see it and thus they think it's not an actual illness. As a result of these intersecting causes, there are a lot of treatments that have been developed to help people with a mental illness cope with their symptoms. Although the treatment options may help the person to lead a more pleasant life, often that doesn't take the mental illness away and they're still battling it. It's just that they found a way to cope with it. You can then understand why I get mad when television suggests a miracle cure-all that magically makes everything better. I find that media, and specifically television, tries to glamorize mental illness, and I think that's very downgrading to the strength of the people suffering. For example, in the Silver Linings Playbook, it's kind of insinuated by the end that love heals all, including the two main characters' mental illness. While I think that having a stable, healthy relationship is probably a good thing for a person struggling, I don't think it takes the mental illness away. Another movie is A Beautiful Mind. During a very important scene in the film, John Nash's wife must decide whether or not to recommit him to a mental hospital. She expresses the notion that maybe you can get better from here, first gesturing to his head and then his heart. And from then on, John Nash wills his schizophrenia away. He is shown overcoming his mental illness through sheer self-control. It's like saying, hey, don't be anxious. Amazing, my anxiety is cured! I wonder if that works with diabetes too. However, despite their flaws, Silver Linings Playbook and A Beautiful Mind do a better job at depicting mental illness than other movies. But here's an idea though. How about we look at mental illnesses for what they really are? Third stereotype. Tell me about your mother. I find that in movies, a lot of the time, the mental health professionals are mixed up. Basically, movies don't know the distinction between a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a therapist. This can further confuse the public on how people with mental illnesses get help, and specifically what every practitioner can do to help. Moreover, I don't know if you've noticed, but all of the professional cabinets look the same, at least to me. Hey, long black leather chair that people lie down on. I just want to say that I'm not bashing the actors or what the movie looks like. I'm sure that all in all, they're very appealing movies to watch. I'm just saying that there are much better ways to realistically portray mental illnesses by simply doing a little bit of research beforehand. You may know what the mental illnesses are really like, but the majority of people don't. So it's really important that we get this right when making a movie. And if you're planning to film a fiction, it doesn't take much to just add a little bit of text saying that this is not an accurate portrayal of reality. Thanks for sticking with me throughout this video. Have you seen any depictions about mental illness in the media lately? Did you think they were accurate portrayals? Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out my teammates' videos about stigma and mental health, and let's talk about it so that we can break the stigma together. Bye!